question we're going to start with today is this, and I heard this recently, and it said that second only to smells remind you of things is songs have a tendency to remind you of things in your life. And it was kind of curious to me because I don't have a lot of songs that remind me of things, but I'm curious if you can think of a song that reminds you of an event in your life. What was the song and what was the event?
Oh my gosh.
And one comes to my mind immediately for you.
Oh yeah, I know this story. Go ahead. You
You
start
go.
because I.
Okay, I'll start.
You start because I got to think for a second.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when I was in high school, I was a senior, and I went to my homecoming dance with a couple of friends. And one of the girls, there was a song that came on, and it was a song called "I Ain't Missing You at All," and it was.
I love that song.
Okay.
By the way, I was watching Miami Vice the other day, and that song was in it.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
And this girl, the song came on, and it was just releasing right then.
Yeah.
And she said, "For the rest of your life, whenever this song comes on, I want you to think of me." Her name is Ashley.
Boy, what a way to just
And
devalue and.
every year I hear that song and I think of Ashley. Right?
That's a bummer.
Well, it's okay because whenever it's our birthday, on Facebook,
Sure.
I'll always say, I heard that song, or I'll send her a quick message and say, I
Yeah.
heard that song and I thought of you.
Uh-huh.
And she's a great girl.
Okay. She
so
wasn't.
it's
yeah.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
But another one was I dated a girl when I was a senior in high school, and she was one of these girls. I grew up kind of in a little poor area, but I dated the girls in the richer area that were close by. And she was one of those girls. And her mom had a birthday party for her at the top of the Oak Cliff Tower. It's the Oak Cliff Bank Tower.
Okay.
So it's like 10 or 12 stories. I could be wrong. It could be 8, and it could be 15. But
Yeah.
anyway, it was
Is that like the tallest building in Oak
the tallest
Cliff?
building in Oak Cliff.
Okay.
And they had a big giant.
Which Oak Cliff is right around the corner from downtown Dallas.
Oh, yeah. It's
So there's
5
lots.
miles,
So
5
there's-
miles
okay.
away. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's separated enough to where it's its own little entity.
Sure.
And her mom rented out the top of the Oak Cliff Tower, and it was just like this banquet room. And a Sting song
Okay.
came on.
Was this like for a birthday? For a birthday
Yeah, for
party?
her.
You said? Okay,
for her
sweet
birthday,
16 or whatever.
something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
I think she was a little older, but maybe not. I don't know. I was pretty young. But anyway, for a song called "I'll Be Wrapped Around Your Finger" by Sting came on.
Okay.
And she grabbed my hand and we danced to this song. And now every time I hear that song, and that's one of those songs that just pops out of nowhere periodically too.
Sure.
I think of that moment where I was dancing with her, and I felt like it was her birthday,
Yeah.
but she made me feel like the king of the world at that moment.
That's pretty cool.
And I'll never forget that feeling of like,
Yeah.
the prettiest girl in the world is on my arm, and I'm the king of the world. And I was probably 17,
Yeah.
young.
When you're
But-
that age, everything's kind of a movie, isn't it?
It really is,
Yeah.
yeah. And it was,
Yeah.
and so those are a couple of them I can remember, and I'm curious, just
I mean, I'm having a hard time of thinking of anything that reminded me of an event, I'll hear songs by bands or by artists and remember the time I went to go see him live or something like
Okay.
that.
Well-
Like I was in Foot Locker the other day and a Kid Cudi song came on.
okay.
And that made me think of going to that concert, the Kid Cudi concert, with Carrie, with my wife, my
Okay.
now wife, right?
I
So
gotcha.
that might be an easy answer though, but yeah, I'll hear like artists and I'll remember going to see them live, you
Okay.
know?
Are there stories that are wrapped around live events that you remember? Because I know you got one you told me about. I think you and Carl went down to Utah, or you went to Vegas
Yeah.
to see somebody,
Yeah.
and you said you had an experience while you were in Vegas that was unusual. And I want to say it was Kanye.
For sure it was Kanye's.
Okay.
So
And you stayed with somebody, and they said, "Let's go shoot some pool or something, or go to a club or something."
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Do you just want to hear that story?
I just want to hear that story. 'Cause I've heard it before.
Yeah.
But it's start.
Yeah, so my sophomore year of college, my roommate was my best friend Carl,
Okay.
right? And it was 2016, right? And the Life of Pablo album by Kanye West had just come out.
Okay.
It had come out at the beginning of the year, right? And me and him had been planning this for months, and so we wanted to go see that tour, right? Mm-hmm. And the nearest venue might have been Salt Lake, but he was playing at the stadium in Vegas, right?
Okay, right.
And I went to a small school in eastern Idaho, and the nearest airport was Idaho Falls Airport.
How far away was that from?
45 minutes.
Okay.
From right. So we drive over there. We get
How
on
big
this,
is the Idaho Falls Airport?
dude.
Two gates?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like a bus stop?
It looks like a Target. Yeah, it looks like a Target,
That's
right?
awesome, yeah.
You know what? The only smaller airport I've been to is the Santa Fe airport. That airport
Mexico.
is so small.
Gotcha.
And it's in like a little pueblecito, you know what I mean? It's got like it's built out of adobe brick and stuff too, you know?
I like it when
right.
I like it when you go into Spanish word. Pueblocito.
Yeah, right in theme with the rest of Santa Fe. But anyway, we go to, oh man.
By the way, just to let everybody know, Alex speaks Spanish.
I speak Spanish, yeah.
And so when he does that, it's natural for him to say that without it being weird.
Yeah.
Because to some people...
But by the way, I don't like doing it because it annoys me when people do it.
Okay.
Right? But
Okay.
I do it around you because I know you get a kick out of it, right?
Yeah.
Right? Because it's that person that goes to, you know...
Because you don't look like you speak Spanish, first of all.
Not at all. Not at all. And usually when I speak Spanish, people are pretty shocked. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pueblocito.
Yeah. Like, you're making me think of all these stories that have nothing to do with your question, right?
Well, it's funny, too, because I'll hear words. We watched the movie the other night in El Guapo. What was the movie we watched?
Oh, Three Amigos.
Three Amigos, and the guy's name was El Guapo. And he was a bad guy, but he was so happy and smiley and engaging.
Yeah.
We just became fans of it.
I
And
like
I'm
El Guapo a lot.
And I'm like, what does El Guapo mean? He says, the handsome.
It means the handsome one, right?
And so, now it's on my mind. I'm like, El Guapo.
El Guapo, right? Yeah.
Sorry to
No, that's okay. So, yeah, the Idaho Falls Airport, and it's interesting because there's like this rinky-dink airline, right, that does, it literally does.
Greyhound.
Yeah, Greyhound Airs. Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, I don't even know if they really fly anywhere except for to Vegas out of Idaho Falls. Like,
Okay.
They do a Vegas special, like literally a Vegas special.
From Idaho Falls to
right,
Vegas.
where they take off on Thursday and they come back on Monday.
I got a feeling every little town probably has a Vegas special.
You might be right. You might be
I
right,
bet.
right? And so we buy our flights and everything, right? And it's literally like we fly out on Thursday, right? The concert's on Saturday and it flies back on Monday.
Right.
So it's perfect, right?
Right.
And
So weekend in Vegas with your buddy while you're in college.
yep.
Nothing better.
Yeah. Yep. And
Yeah.
we're not gamblers or we're not vice type dudes. So
Right.
We're literally going.
It doesn't matter though.
Yeah,
Vegas, you can just go and look for 3 days.
We're going for the concert and for the shopping maybe and just to hang out, right?
Yeah.
And so, funny story, while we're at, like I said, I'm getting all these stories that don't have anything to do with your
That's
question,
all right, man. I like it.
So we're in the airport, right? And we're going through TSA, right? Which is 2 dudes, you know?
Yeah.
And their metal detector looks like
Idaho,
in
Idaho Falls,
yeah. Right? So
Yeah. If you're Hamas, that's where you want to fly out of.
yeah. We might bleep that, by the way. I don't want the algorithm. Yeah. So first story is I put my backpack on the conveyor belt.
Yeah.
And I hear the guy go, "Well, that's not coming."
Okay,
right?
okay.
And I look up and he pulls out a box cutter. Oh no. Right? Yeah. Which I transitioned from my summer job into college really quickly. Right. And so I used the same backpack. And I still had a box cutter left over from when I was working construction, right?
Sure.
To cut ties off of bundles of wood.
Right.
And so I was like, keep it. I don't need it.
Yeah.
Fine. That's fine with me, right?
Right. Sorry about that.
Yeah. My bad. Forgot
And
it was
they probably
in there.
get that sometimes.
Probably. Yeah. And it wasn't like it was. They didn't pull out a Glock or anything. You know what I mean,
Right.
And then I hear the other TSA go, "What in the Scooby-Doo is this?"
Did he say Scooby-Doo?
He literally said, "What in the Scooby-Doo?"
By the way, that's Idaho Falls where they say Scooby-Doo as a curse word.
No.
No?
He was doing it like Batman and Robin.
Oh.
Like, holy blank Batman, and he puts in something to do with what was going. Scooby-Doo was a reference to what he was looking at, right? So he goes, "What in the Scooby-Doo?" And I look, and there are white footprints walking through the metal detector at TSA. Like these white footprints. Do you remember this story now?
No.
There are white footprints.
Okay.
And I look up, and Carl's already gone through.
So he had gone through.
And the white footprints were following him. They were his footprints.
Okay.
Right? And
I know where this is going
Carl
now.
looks and he goes, "Oh." So Carl was leaving these white footprints like a dadgum Scooby-Doo clue.
Right. Like a ghost.
Like, "Hey, gang, we found a clue,"
White
right?
a ghost footprints.
Exactly. That's why he said, "What in the Scooby-Doo?"
Right.
And Carl looks up and he goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry."
Yeah.
And they go, "What is it?" And
Yeah.
he's like, I've been dealing with stinky feet lately.
Carl.
Carl. Right?
There we have it, yeah.
He says, I've been dealing with stinky feet lately, and so I put some baby powder in my shoes to counteract that, and I think I put too much.
Yeah.
Right?
It's not cocaine.
Right. So when he slipped off, when he slipped off his shoes and exposed his socks,
poof,
a little that was going through TSA, right?
So you guys started off a box cutter and Scooby-Doo footprints.
Yeah.
In
So
Idaho Falls.
we're not in Idaho Falls, right?
Right,
so,
right.
Sorry, that's a pre-story to the story I think you want to hear, right?
Sure.
So yeah, we go to Vegas, and also it was a Halloween weekend.
Oh, in Vegas.
In Vegas.
Holy moly.
Right?
Yeah.
So on top of the street performers, right, and the ladies trying to sell things that you don't want to get, right? There was costumes out the yin yang over there that week, all weekend long. It wasn't just on the 31st.
No. Yeah.
Because the 31st I think was a Sunday, if I remember right.
Right.
So we go to the concert on Saturday. It's awesome. It's the coolest show I've ever been to, right? And this was before Kanye got in a bunch of trouble with a bunch of stuff lately, right?
Gotcha.
2016, 17, like I said.
Right. Sure.
So he was at the peak of the mountain, and his show was incredible, right?
Right.
So I think it was Sunday. So what happened is we fly into Vegas, and Carl's aunt and uncle live in Vegas, right? They're this really, really nice Chilean couple, right? Because Carl is Chilean, right?
Okay.
So this really nice Chilean, this older kind of grandma and grandpa type Chilean couple.
Sure.
Come pick us up. We stay at their house, and they have 2 sons that live with them, right?
Yeah.
2 older sons, right? So on Sunday, we're like, we've just been hanging out at their house, right?
Yeah.
And one of the sons, he says, well, let's go find a place to go shoot pool.
Okay.
Let's go find a bar. Let's go shoot pool. Right.
Is Carl a good pool shooter?
None of us are good pool shooters.
So
it's really
just to pass time and have fun together.
Yeah, just to dink around and goof around, right? We're gonna go order a couple Cokes and some French fries and some appetizers and just hang out, right?
Tells you how boring we are.
Yeah, like I said,
it's fun for us.
We're not smoking, drinking, vice type people. Me and him ain't going to no gentlemen's clubs or nothing like that. It's not our thing, right? So, we're driving around town, and we pass one club, we pass another club, and they're pretty packed because it's Halloween evening, right?
Right.
So people are out having a good time, right?
Probably all kinds of crazies out there too.
Yeah. And so all of a sudden, one of Carl's cousins go, you know what? I know this place. Even on Halloween, it's not going to be packed.
Gotcha.
Right. So we roll up, and I look, and the name of the club is The Phoenix. Right.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, whatever, right? And I walk in, and it becomes very apparent very quickly that it's a gay club. It's a gay club, right? Which that cousin that suggested is gay, right?
Okay.
And so that's, he said, let's just go hang out, right?
Sure.
And so, and I don't have any issue with it, but I've never been to a gay club, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a new experience.
Yeah. And there's probably nothing different about it except it's all dudes in there, right? It's just a bunch of dudes hanging out, right?
Right.
So we're shooting pool, but boy, the costumes were better probably than any other club in Vegas, right? The costumes were kicking, right?
I bet they were.
You had the Riddler walking around. You had Minnie Mouse walking around.
And I bet the Riddler was like primo.
He had the suit vest. He
Riddler.
had the vest. He had the bowler hat and the little cane, and he was doing,
yeah.
This was Adam West Riddler. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right? So we're just shooting pool, kind of people watching, looking at everybody having a good time. And they said, hey, in 5 minutes, we're starting karaoke, right? And boy, I don't care where your politics or your morals or whatever lie, you haven't lived. You should go to a gay bar on karaoke night.
You haven't lived
until you've been to a gay bar on karaoke night, right?
Yeah.
Because every other one was either Mariah Carey or a show tune of some kind of Broadway show.
Was there a little bit of Donna Summer flying out of there too? I'm guessing. Okay.
Yeah. And those dudes could sing, man.
I bet.
Those dudes could sing, man. And when they would
were
sing...
Were there any girls at all in there? Did you see
one of Carl's other cousins came with us.
Gotcha.
Right? And I don't remember if there were any other ladies there.
Yeah.
But
just hanging out with your buddies. Just
hanging out, like I said, drinking Cokes and root beers and shooting pool, right?
Right.
Yeah, and every
the show was really the whole time.
It was
just
awesome.
Watching
it was
people.
awesome, man. Right, and whenever a guy would get up there to sing and he would do a show tune that was romantic, he would always replace he with she, so it turned into a ballad about a dude he was in love with, right? And every now and then they would sneak in Dad, you know, I love him, Dad. You know what I mean? Right?
I like the way your voice hit that. I
Yeah.
love him,
Dad. Yeah. Like, yeah, they were singing their souls, man. Yeah, that was a lot of fun, right?
I got you.
And then, you know, the next day we hopped on our flight, we went back home. But
Okay.
yeah, Kanye weekend. And it's funny you say that because maybe not associate the song, but I associate that concert with when I met my wife.
Why is that?
I met her a week before we left on that trip.
So was she on your mind when you were out there having fun?
I definitely had a
Well,
crush
she's
on
sitting
her.
right over there, so you ought to say yes.
I definitely had a crush on her, right? We'd only been on maybe 1 or 2 dates, right?
Right.
But I remember exactly when I met my wife because it was 1 week BK before Kanye, right?
BK.
Instead of BC.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. BK.
Right, before Kanye.
Right.
But yeah, so maybe not the song itself, but that concert for sure is like the perfect benchmark for remembering exactly when I met my wife.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's
Do you have
really
any
cool.
other songs or anything?
You know what? I mean, I went to see Prince in concert, and when you said the greatest concert you've ever been to, immediately that Prince concert in Reunion Arena and New Year's 1985 hit my mind.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the Purple Rain stuff, it takes me back to that
Yeah.
night. But there's not a ton of them. You know, there's a ton of songs and artists that if I hear will immediately throw Shelley into my mind, my wife.
Sure. Yeah.
And so that happens to me pretty
I
regularly.
know. Tell me one of that stories because it doesn't feel right you telling me romantic stories about some other girl out there. So is there? Tell me one. Tell me one of the songs that makes you think of mom.
So there's a,
that makes me feel more comfortable.
yeah. So
Some other hoe. I'm just kidding.
There's a song called Sunshine, and it's by Alexander O'Neal.
Yeah, I like that song.
And the lyrics are, you know, cloudy was the day when sunshine came into my life. And so that song, it was out when I met Shelley, but it had been out for a while. But I remember when Shelley, she was different than the other girls. And I didn't know really what it was, but it brightened me. And so that song, and she knew it too, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And I would play it and say, this is the song that really makes me think of you more than anything. So anytime I hear Alexander O'Neal now, which is pretty rare because he's not that popular of a musician.
Yeah.
But Christmas time, you'll always hear his famous "My Gift to You" is his famous Christmas song.
Mm-hmm.
And I listen to R&B stations a lot and that kind of stuff. So anytime I hear anything Alexander O'Neal, I immediately go back to that song, and it just brings back memories of her.
Yeah.
And there's a song by Babyface was in a band. I think it was called After 6 or After 7 or something. And there's a song called Ready or Not that he and his crew sang.
Yeah.
And it's the same way. It's just immediately, and it reminds me not, and I don't have memories of difficulty. It's memories of our early relationship, and prior to getting married, how it just felt so much different than anybody else. You know, so when I hear those songs, I flash back to when we were dating.
Yeah.
I don't even flash to when we got married or any of that, but just when we were dating.
Yeah.
And the smiles that those memories put on my face are just are really, really cool. You know? But
you know what? I actually think I might have a couple that have popped in my head.
There you go.
So there's a song by Post Malone that's in that first Spider-Verse movie.
Okay.
It's the Sunflower song.
Yeah.
You know that one?
Of course.
That song came out the day after I went to that big soccer game in Germany.
Oh, okay.
And if you, I'm not going to retell that story,
Right.
but it's on a previous episode, right?
Right.
I'll try to find it and link it so you can jump to it. But yeah, so that came out the next day because I remember that Spider-Verse movie coming out was pretty exciting for people, and that song
Sure.
was really cool.
It was exciting for people in Frankfurt, Germany.
No. It was exciting for people, maybe in Frankfurt, but
Yeah.
you know, and it was. And Post Malone was at his peak. You know, he's still pretty popular.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
so I remember waking up that next morning and looking on Spotify and seeing, and it was like, oh, a new Post Malone song came out.
Right.
And so I remember, and the family that I was staying with was out that week, so I remember turning that song up real loud in that apartment.
Yeah.
And listening to it, you know, on repeat the day after I had that.
Now,
I went to that
there
soccer
you go.
game.
So whenever you hear it now,
I think of
that moment.
yeah, not the soccer game itself. The morning after, when
Sure.
I was still living on the fumes of that experience, were still hyping me up, and then
Right.
that song, and how much I thought that song was cool.
That's pretty slick.
You know?
And that's a popular song. That's a song you'll hear for the rest of your life.
For sure. It's a big song.
Yeah.
It's a real big song.
Which is kind of the cool part about, because there's a lot of songs that remind me of different things, but the ones that are always going to be played because they just get into the rotation.
Yeah.
Are the ones that are kind of cool because they'll throw you back into certain states, of your life.
I have another one, but as an aside to that, I'll hear songs that I recognize from a movie in random places, and it'll make me think of a movie.
Yeah.
Right? Like we were in Olive Garden the other day. Me and Carrie went to Olive Garden, and they play, accordion, Italian music over the deal, right? And all of a sudden they played the song that was in The Man from U.N.C.L.E., right? A movie that I really like.
Right.
Right? And I went, oh, I know that song.
Right.
Right? And I'm like, how am I supposed? There should be no reason why I would recognize an Italian song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? But it was from that movie that I really enjoyed. Right? So that was kind of cool.
That's slick. You just reminded me of something that I had completely forgot about, but it was a crazy experience because I remember one of my very first jobs out of high school was before they had internet or email or anything. And so I worked for the Republic Bank of Dallas. And they had these documents that they would have to take back and forth from banks around Dallas. And so I was basically a runner.
Yeah.
I'd be in my office, not my office, but a office with a bunch of people. And they'd call and they'd say, Kyle, go up to this office, grab this document, run it down to the bank on the other end of town. And so I would just walk. So I was always walking all over downtown, always going up and down in elevators, and I would go from one building to the next and then go back to my office and wait for the next call.
Sure.
It was kind of fun because I got to meet a lot of people downtown.
Yeah.
I ended up meeting Roger, the guy that I ended up doing some modeling for. I ended up meeting, I knew all the bums. I knew their stories.
Yeah.
So it was really pretty cool. But one of the funniest things that ever happened to me is I got on an elevator, and it's in the middle of the day, so sometimes you'll get on these elevators and go up, 30, 40 floors. And I hear this, it's a orchestra playing, and I recognize the song, and I'm like, I don't really listen to, Beethoven and Bach, and what the heck is this? And I realized about halfway up that it was a Prince song. It was Kiss. Kiss.
Oh, okay. Dude, when you said Kiss, I thought you meant the band Kiss, and I was
it was.
I was like, Kiss did a cover of Prince.
No. It was the Prince song Kiss.
The Prince song Kiss.
But it was a orchestral version of it.
That's sick.
And I remember it was so dang good that I went to my floor and it opened up and then somebody got on and I went up and I was just riding, listening to the song like, this is so dang good.
Yeah, because you had to soak it in because you're like, I can't look this up later. Yeah.
And I didn't want to, when the song was over, I wanted to hear it again. And I didn't know, I didn't have a lot going on.
Sure.
I'm just riding elevators, walking around. So I'm thinking I'm going to catch that elevator again because if they cycle it, sometimes like in stores, they'll cycle music. And it had been like 20 minutes or so. And I'm like, if they cycle it, I want to catch that elevator. Mm-hmm. And so I ended up really high in this bank, way up there. And I hop on an elevator and I'm just going to, and it's the right one because you press buttons and they come and it's the wrong one. There's a bank of elevators, maybe six or seven elevators. Okay. And the wrong one will come and I'll just say, no, thanks. And I'll keep going. I'll catch the next one.
Like there's elevators that only go to certain floors or something?
Yeah. So some of them will go to 20. Some of them will go from 21 to 50. Some of them will go, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'm trying to catch the right one.
Okay.
And an elevator comes and it doesn't do anything. So the next one comes. So I just let it go. Finally, I get the same elevator. And I hop on and I'm just waiting. And it's not that song, right? And I was thinking, what is my luck anyway? Well, my plan was to ride it again.
Yeah.
For the next half hour because I wasn't on a time limit,
Yeah.
So, and I was at a really high floor and we're zooming down, and by the time, and a lot of these elevators that would go from like 25 to 50, they would also stop on 2 and 1 because 2 and 1, you got your lobby and your second lobby or something. And so my stomach was rumbling for some reason, and I cut a nasty fart on the side.
It's probably all the altitude changes.
Yeah, it must have been. It must have been.
Pressure change.
But anyway, it was funky.
Yeah, you ranked it up in there.
But and as I did, I realized, oh crap. Hopefully, I'm pre-thinking, once the elevator hits the first floor, I'm gonna be right by the door.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna jet out so I can escape the smell before anybody else steps on
And know it's you.
know it's me. Yeah,
Because
so
you were the only one on the
I
elevator.
was the only one on the elevator.
Yeah. You couldn't blame it like, ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was that you? Dude.
I couldn't pull any of that.
Yeah.
I couldn't even pretend to pull it, right?
Yeah.
Which at least if there's two of you, they can't blame it on you specifically, right?
Yeah.
So it's zooming down, and it's like boom, 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 and I'm thinking, okay, I'm getting close to the door, and all of a sudden, it stops on 2, and I was going to get off on 1, and I'm like, oh crap, and usually people don't ride from 2 to 1, you'd ride from yeah, and so I'm thinking, geez, Louise, so so I back off, thinking, oh geez, what's happening? Maybe somebody pressed a button and ain't going to get on, Well, sure enough, a lady gets on. An older lady. And I was probably 21 or 22. I was pretty young.
Yeah.
No, I was younger than that. But anyway, she gets on the elevator and she just stands there for a second. And she looks at me and she goes, I knew I was busted.
You were busted, yeah.
But then she said, do you smell glue? And I just started laughing. Glue. And she was like shocked by my laughter.
Laughing, yeah.
And I couldn't stop to explain anything, and I didn't really want to explain.
Yeah.
But then when we got off of the elevator at 1, when it went down to 1, she
took off.
She thought I was on the elevator with a freaky deaky over. I don't know what's
that's
going
funny,
on.
Dude.
But then as I walked out, I was just cracking up.
See, it's funny because I've heard that glue story before.
Yeah.
But I didn't know it was attached to the Prince song.
It was attached to the Prince song.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why.
So do you think of that?
Whenever
elevator?
I hear Kiss, I think of elevator
and that
glue situation. Yeah. But I'll never forget walking back to my office, and as soon as I got back to my office, I was still laughing. It was probably half a mile. I laughed from that elevator all the way back to my office was, and when I came in, they were like, "What is going on with you?" And I couldn't tell the story.
Yeah.
Because I was laughing so hard from that experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the Prince song "Kiss" makes me think of farting in an elevator now.
That's funny.
So
I've got one other, and then I know you have one that you haven't brought up yet, but I want to hear it because I like the story,
You'll have to
right?
remind
Because
me.
it's about me.
Okay.
And that's what this whole thing is about. It's about me.
It's about you.
Just kidding. There's a Mark Anthony song. I think it's Mark Anthony, right?
Okay.
The Puerto Rican guy that was married to J-Lo, right?
There you go.
One of 19 dudes that's been married to J-Lo, right?
Right.
And by the way, Mark Anthony, I just want to say this, right? Mark Anthony looks like a little Weasley dude.
He can blow.
He can sing, dude.
Yeah, you're right.
That dude
You're right.
has got pipes,
I agree.
right?
Yeah.
There's this Mark Anthony song that's very anthemic, and I don't know what it's called, and I really can't even remember the words to it. Right? But it's in Spanish, right?
Oh, okay.
I can't even really sing the tune of it because I don't even know the word. I don't know the words enough, really.
Okay.
But I'll figure out what it is, and I'll follow up with you.
There you go.
In Argentina, right? I noticed this the first day I got there, right? People buy these stereo systems, right? Like a lot of people do to play music in their house, right? But when they're feeling extra jovial, right? And maybe a little bit inebriated, right?
Tipsy, yeah.
They'll take those sound systems, these big, floor model speaker systems, right? And they'll turn them out and they'll
Put them in the window.
Put them in the windows.
So they can sit outside.
So they can sit outside and the whole block is going to hear what they're listening to.
Right.
Right?
Boy, I wish we could make that popular here.
And do you know what? My first day in Argentina, the first day I experienced it was that Pitbull song with Kesha. It's going down. I'm yelling. So there's one. Every time I hear that song, I think of that first day in Argentina where I experienced that. I was like, they just putting the speakers in the windows?
Right.
Now, every time I hear that Mark Anthony song, I think of when that happened one time, right? Because we were sitting on the porch having lunch with some friends, right? And all of a sudden we see the dude start to put the speakers up.
You know what's about to happen.
And he starts playing that Mark Anthony song. But what was unique about this time is that he had it on loop and he played it like 20 times in a row.
Gosh, yeah.
And I'm not kidding, over the span of an hour, that's the only song we heard was that Mark Anthony song.
Right, his favorite song.
His favorite song, right? And so the first time you're like, this song's good, right? You can't, and Mark Anthony can sing.
Yeah.
But by the fifth time, you're like,
that's enough.
What's going on, man? What is going on here, right? So there's one of that. The story I want to hear from you, so we'll tie a bow on it with this one.
Okay.
Tell me about Alice in Chains.
Oh yeah, that's right. It is about you.
Yeah.
So,
and by the way, I don't act. I want to save myself. I'm being silly. I I don't like the story because it is about me, even though it is.
Yeah.
I think it's a cool story.
It is a cool story.
Yeah.
So
And it's about mom.
early
and
on-
I like telling stories about
early
mom.
on in my marriage with Shelley, we waited a couple of years before we decided to have a baby. But once we decided to have a baby,
Because you were born in, or sorry, you were, I'm the oldest. I was born in 94. You guys were married in 91.
91, yeah. And so, yeah, basically about 3 years, almost 3 years to the day from us getting married, you were born. So we decided when we were going to have you, we didn't know it was you, but we decided we were going to have a kid. And I remember we talked about it and we thought the time was right. And I was working at Home Depot. And I was working at Home Depot in Duncanville, Texas, right there on 67. And I remember your mom and I had been talking about it, and she said, I'm not going to be able to stand it once I get pregnant, you're going to know immediately.
Yeah.
And this is before cell phones or anything.
Sure.
And so I remember
We'll keep
one
it
day-
to ourselves, but we're going to.
Yeah, we kept it to ourselves for the first couple of months because we knew that was the most risky time and we didn't want.
Sure.
Yeah. And so I remember I was at Home Depot and I was working in the paint department and I was up on this like 12-foot ladder standing at the very top. And Man in the Box by Alice in Chains
Yeah.
came over the speaker
Wow.
system.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. And I
Which
was
is a
up-
killer tune.
It's a killer tune, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm standing at the
We
top.
sound like.
I know.
We sound like. Yeah. Have you heard the killer tune, Beaver?
Yeah,
Leave
there-
it to Beaver.
there you
Sound
go.
like daggone.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is, it's funny
Right.
because you and I have a variety of music we like.
Sure.
And pretty much a lot of music we like. And we
Yeah.
we listen to a lot of the same
Yeah.
music because we just appreciate good music,
Sure. I'll modernize it. That song slaps, man.
It does. It's
That
good.
song slaps.
So I'm up there listening to it. I'm like bobbing my head. And the speaker was right there. So it was like
You were
right
way
in my
up there.
ear.
Yeah.
And I glanced down and Shelley, she had made herself a jumpsuit, a red and white striped, like over the shoulder.
Because that was one of
one
mom's
piece.
biggest hobbies was sewing. She
would-
made her own wedding dress.
Yeah.
She would make clothes all so she had made her own.
She had sewed her
jumpsuit.
own jumpsuit.
Yeah.
And I look over and she's running up the aisle.
Red and white
Just-
stripes. Sorry, I want to paint the
It
mental
wasn't.
picture.
It wasn't like big thick ones.
Is it
It
kinda
was basically
pinstripey?
white with a little red pinstripe all
Pinstripes.
over it. And it was just the cutest thing. Your mom always knew how to. She had style.
Yeah.
And so I look over and she is just running and she doesn't see me. She's looking for me.
Yeah.
You know,
and a big old grin on her face.
Big old grin, and I knew right then she's pregnant. Right?
pregnant.
Yeah. And I'm watching her, and she's like looking and looking, and I don't say anything. I just watch her just come running up, and it's etched in my mind the smile, and just her feminine, just when I think about it, I get goosebumps because it
Yeah.
was just this beautiful, feminine girl
Yeah.
just experiencing this for the first time,
Yeah.
And I remember I was on the top of that ladder and she's looking around, and finally I said, Shelley, and she just looked up and had her grin. I mean, you could see it from space.
Yeah.
And I knew right then, and she knew that I knew, and I mean, she just teared up, and I remember it made me tear up. And I think, I can't be sure, but I think I pretty much threw my legs, which was illegal, on the handrails and my hands, and I went and slid down this 12-foot ladder so I could get to the bottom.
Yeah.
And she went over there right near the bottom of it, and
Yeah.
I think I hit the bottom going pretty fast and took a couple of steps, and we just hugged. And I knew,
Yeah.
we both knew in that moment,
Yeah.
that she was, and it was you. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was when she was pregnant. with you.
Now, Man in the Hat or Man in the Box
Yeah.
is not a song you hear very often,
no, it's not.
right?
But anytime,
As good as it is.
Yeah,
But anytime Alice in Chains or anything like gets mentioned, you
Yeah.
remember that.
that's the first thing that pops in my mind. Yeah, and I will hunt that song down occasionally when I'm in a rock and roll mood.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I like music with passion.
Sure.
So heavy metal, funk, R&B. I kind of steer away from country a little bit because it just seems, and it's just not my take.
Sure.
But you're into the same kind of stuff, which is interesting, right?
Yeah.
But also add rap into and I like that too, by the way.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff you like, I like.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, it's fun. It's funny how different songs, and if you think about it a little bit, we could probably come up with another 20 or 30.
Yeah. The
That just
longer we
brings
talk, the more we could definitely think. I
Yeah.
mean, I didn't even think about Pitbull until the end of this conversation.
That's
right?
cool though. I like that though because he's Latin anyway, isn't he?
Yeah, he's Cuban, I
Cuban.
think, right?
Right. So
Yeah.
in Argentina, do they just adopt any
Yeah,
Spanish?
anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
That
and,
makes
and,
sense.
and honest to goodness, like if we're being super honest, it is middle America that has a chokehold on Latin music.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It's Puerto Ricans. It's Puerto Rico especially because they've got Ricky Martin and all those guys coming out of there, right?
Yeah.
Mark Anthony is Puerto Rican,
Sure.
you know. But you got good voices coming out of everywhere, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The Dominican Republic is famous for bachata, like a very specific kind of like cool music, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
And if you funk it up, I'll listen to it. I promise.
yeah.
I don't care what
So there's
kind
lots of
music.
good stuff, right? Yeah. Enrique Iglesias, obviously.
Oh,
they're
yeah.
from Spain, but still, yeah, they listen to anything Spanish language, right?
That reminds me of a song by Enrico Iglesias, and it's "I Can Be Your Hero, Baby," right?
Yeah.
But I always the first time I heard it, I would always sing it to Shelly, and I would say, "I can be your hero sandwich.
So
You can slap mayonnaise," and I would just go through a list
Yeah,
of,
you were Weird Al in it yourself, weren't you?
and I would add pickles, and
Yeah.
I would just the lyrics turned into a hero sandwich.
Yeah. He's just singing the same line over and over, just the ingredients.
Yes, that's exactly
and
what
then
I
at
would
the
do.
end, you can take a bite out of me, right? And then the song's over.
So easy. But Shelly could not stand it.
Yeah, that's
because
funny.
I ruined that song for her because she
Yeah.
liked the song and it's a good song.
Yeah.
But I ruined the song because I couldn't listen to it. I couldn't. And there's songs like that too. I don't know if you have songs where you created your own words and you can't even listen to the song anymore without singing your own words. And people are like, "What are you saying?"
I'm sure there's
I've
one
got-
if I think
I've got
about it.
some like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, we are all our own Weird Al Yankovic at one
We
point.
kind
or
of
another,
are,
aren't we?
yeah. And that
Yeah.
was one that was big for me.
Yeah.
Because she would say, "Would you stop with that? I can't." Now I say hero sandwich when I'm singing along.
Yeah.
I'm like,
That's
sorry,
funny.
I can't resist.
That's
So,
funny.
Yeah.
Yep.
Music.
Yeah, but I remember that when I hear that Pitbull song, I think of it because, you know, I didn't experience like a ton of culture shock. I was kind of excited and ready for it.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
And there were dudes who got down there who experienced culture shock bad, and it's because I don't know, they weren't excited about it yet. You know what I mean?
I see.
And so I didn't experience a ton of culture shock, but everything I saw that would bring that, I just thought
You
was
were ready.
cool.
You were in a soak.
I just thought it was
mood.
cool. You
Yeah.
know, I was like, oh, interesting, right? Interesting
Right.
that.
What about smells? Are there smells that? Because I've got a really interesting story, and it's about one of my very first girlfriends when I was 16.
I mean, I have like favorite smells.
Yeah.
But I don't have
They don't
smells
just-
that bring back anything. I don't think.
Interesting.
You know, like fresh cut cilantro that's about to go into some salsa. That's
Yeah.
one of my favorite smells.
See,
But I
that's
don't
interesting
think,
because they say that the olfactory, or your
Olfactory?
your sense of smell is called your olfactory
Okay.
sense. Olfactory. I hope I'm getting that right. Okay.
Yeah,
Anyway,
there's an ornithologist that's kicking.
yeah,
it's
somebody
punching
yeah,
air right
I
now.
know, right. Ornithologist.
Yeah.
But that they say that is that sense is most connected with memories. So it surprises me that you don't really have any like that. And I don't really either, which is interesting, but I do have my very first girlfriend, her name was Robin. And my older brother Craig set me up with her.
Okay.
Because I was 16 and he was 3 years older, and he was at a dance, a church dance, and he was a chaperone. And he saw this little blonde girl across the room, and she was just the cutest thing ever. And he said, "Kyle, check that out." So I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm on it, you know.
Yeah.
So I ran over there and asked her to dance, and we became kind of, you know,
As much as you can at 16,
yeah,
right?
yeah. But she lived in Waxahachie, which was a different county than
Kind of
Dallas.
satellite of Dallas. Yeah.
And it was 30 minutes away. So I had to call her long distance, which cost
so
a
much
lot
money.
of money.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
When you think of long distance, you think state to state or other countries, but no,
Yeah.
it was 30 minutes away.
30
was
minutes
long.
away was long distance, and it was expensive. If I talked to her for 10 minutes, it was like $1.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
sounds crazy, but that was, you know.
Yeah.
And my parents watched that crap like a
I
hawk.
bet
you
they
know?
did, yeah.
But I remember she used to wear this, I want to say it was called a perfume called Love's Baby Soft. And I think
Love's
that's a
Baby
perfume.
Soft.
That's the one that
Okay.
pops in my mind. But she was the only person I'd ever met that wore it. And it was, every time I got close to her, I could smell it.
Yeah.
And then even today, like 10 years later, I remember I walked by somebody that was wearing it, and I'm like, there's Robin. And I started looking for her because that smell was
Yeah.
so personal to her. And I remember one time Shelly bought it, and she put it on, and I'm like, there's Robin somewhere around here. And she's
Yeah.
like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, that smell smells like one of my very first girlfriends. And she's like, it's out.
Yeah, I bet she did.
And Mom
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
the jealous type.
Yeah, but still.
But she wasn't going to wear it.
Sure.
You know, but it was.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't think I have any. And you know what? I'm sure if I smelt something,
it would pop.
it would pop. But I can't think of anything right now.
Yeah, because this was such a unique smell. I think that's why it's so tied to her.
Yeah, because and that's the other thing too. We smell,
We smell the same stuff all the time.
all the time,
Yeah.
so it's hard for it to be so
Unique.
unique.
But songs are different because songs you can link to things pretty quickly.
yeah.
So interesting.
Cool.
stuff,
That's a
man.
good question.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I've got some more too.
All right. Cool.
All
In
right.
the next episode, we'll jump into them.
All right.
Cool. See you guys.